Shalom, brothers and sisters. This is another episode of 12 Tribes United. Today we're going to go over a brief lesson on graven images, idols, and so forth and so on. Alright, let's go to the book of Deuteronomy 4 and 12. It says, And the Lord spake unto you out of the midst of the fire. Ye heard the voice of the words, but saw no similitude, only ye heard a voice. So when the Lord spoke to us, he didn't show us any image. All right, whether it's an image of a boy, whether it's an image of a cow or a woman, all we heard was a voice. So we didn't see any type of shape. That's what it means, similitude. All right, it says, And he declared unto you his covenant, which he commanded you to perform, even 10 commandments, and he wrote them upon 2 tablets of stone. So the Most High, he commanded us, which he used the angel for it, because the Most High himself didn't come down. But that's besides the point. The angel represented the Most High. He gave us the 10 commandments on stone. It says, And the Lord commanded me at this time, meaning Moses, to teach you statutes and judgments, that you might do them in the land, whether you go over to possess it. So Most High also gave us what? Statutes and judgments to keep in the land that we possess, meaning it was the land of Canaan first, and when we went into the land of Canaan, it became the land of Israel. Sometimes you hear the word Canaan and Israel interchangeably. Doesn't always mean the Hamites. Sometimes it's speaking of the land of Israel. Take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves, for ye saw no manner of similitude on that day, that the Lord spake unto you in Horeb out of the midst of the fire. So he spoke to us out of the burning bush. All right, he gave no shape. So what is this telling you? Go back to Exodus 24-6. Basically telling you, when the scripture said back in Exodus 20-4 and 6, not to have any other gods before me, not to have any graven images, and not to bow down and worship those graven images. So this is all encompassing one. Some people say, you can have a graven image as long as you don't bow down and worship it. That's not what the scriptures say. You just took away the part of not having the image. All right, it's very simple. It explained it. It's like the scriptures talk about. We're supposed to only eat sea creatures with fins and scales. You can't say just scales or just fins. You can't do that. So you can't do that with this law either. Use your common sense. The scriptures show you that when the Most High gives a law, you're supposed to keep it all, not take certain parts of it and pull it out. So obviously, you're not supposed to bow and worship it. You can't bow down and worship it if you didn't make it. Do you understand? All right. Simple. Very, very simple. All right, it said, Lest ye corrupt yourselves and make you a graven image, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female. So the reason why the Most High didn't give us no image when he spoke, so we didn't corrupt ourselves and make an image, the image that we saw, thinking it's the Most High, make it into an idol. So even the Most High knew not to speak to us with an image, with a similitude. So what does this wisdom tells you? That we're not to bow down and worship any image, obviously. We're not to make any images. And if we see an image that's already made, we're not supposed to bow down and worship it. All right? It's all together. All right? Don't say you can have an image if you don't bow down and worship it. You bow down and worship. If you have an image of the black Christ, don't you worship Christ? You have an image of the black Most High. Don't you bow down and worship the Most High? It's foolishness, man. Complete foolishness. The likeness of any beast that is on the earth. So the Most High didn't come in the likeness of any beast on the earth. That's why you make an image. The likeness of any winged fowl that flieth in the air. The Most High didn't come down as no winged creature, as no winged fowl. Like you see the ancient Egyptians, they worship, these gods that look like fowls and so forth and so on, or dogs and eagles. They worship these things as their God. When we see that, we're not supposed to bow down and worship that foolishness. It says, the likeness of anything that creepeth on the ground. Meaning we cannot worship insects. You have cultures that worship insects. All right, the Most High didn't come in the form of a cockroach or a worm or something like that. No. He didn't show any image, which shows you what? We shouldn't have images of the Most High. period. All right? Most High shows us this. This is wisdom. All right? Saying that we can have some images and get that. That's foolishness. All right? It's not what this law says. Don't add to the law. Don't take away from the law. It says, the likeness of any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth. You know that the Egyptians had a certain fish type god, which I'm not going to mention his name. All right, you got a tribe in Africa that even has the name, a similar name. All right, because they worship that. All right. So a lot of times you see an image that some Christians wear where it has a fish and it's supposed to be Christ. No, it's going back to that fish god that the Philistines worshipped. All right, we're not to have that image because we know the origin of that image. At least I lift up thy eyes unto heaven, and when I see as the sun, we're not supposed to make images of the sun and say that's your god. The ancient Egyptians had their god that was the sun, had an image of a sun, and the moon. Yet ancient Egyptians and other cultures had symbols of the moon, saying that was their god. And the stars. Here we go. We have images of stars, not the actual star himself, but an image that looks like a star. And you say that's your God, all right? And that's the Most High. No, Most High is not the creation. He's the creator. So the Most High didn't come in any of those images. So he should not have those images and say it represents the Most High, or represents, especially not have a representing a false God. That's obvious. And don't say, oh, this is the Most High. This is the star of the Most. No, not according to this law. Even all the hosts of heaven, images of angels talking about that's your God, should be driven to worship them and serve them. So if you have these images, you're going to what? End up being corrupted and worshiping. All right? You may not bow down, but in your mind, you look at that as that image. Like the image that they have of Christ. Caesar Borgia, the white image. People, what? They look at that as their God. Even if they said they don't bow and worship it, they still look at that image in their mind. They think that that's their God. They think that that's, and that's Caesar Borgia, son of Pope Alexander VI of Rome. All right. So, I'm going to get into that detail. The scriptures in Revelation 1 and 13 tells us, and 14 tells us, that the image of Christ, well, that Christ himself, he was a dark-skinned man with white woolly hair. Doesn't tell you the shape of his nose and the shape of his face and his eyes. So how are we going to make an image when we don't have his exact feature? We just have his skin color, and we have his hair color, and we have what he wore when he appeared to John, the Revelator. All right, John didn't draw his nose and ears and so forth and so on. All right, so we don't know what he looks like because we wasn't there 2,000 years ago. All right, so to draw him and make an image of him, that's wrong. Because you're making an image of someone else. You're not making an image of the Most High, making an image of the Christ. No man have seen the Father, or else you die. All right. So yes, we know Christ is a dark-skinned man, but to make an actual drawing, a nose, and make the shape of his eyes, you don't know what his nose is shaped like. You don't know what his eyes are shaped like. We all, contrary to popular belief, all black people don't look the same. All right. Somebody could be the same complexion I am, same height even, and features look different. So how are you going to draw a depiction of someone you've never seen? All right? And if you try to say that we had these images later during after Christ, yeah, because after the apostles died and the disciples died, you had new leaders rise up in Israel. And they created what you call today as the Roman Catholic Church. And they started making images. This was after. Look at the dates. It's not during the time of the Messiah. 3rd century AD and so forth and so on, when the Catholic Church was emerging. All right. Then when the Israelites was in Europe, from 193 AD to approximately the 1600s, we were in Europe, going off, making images, and so forth and so on, making black images first, which is still off because you didn't see the Father, neither did you see the Son. All right. So remember that. It says, well, that's it for that. So yeah, there was a time period in the Catholic Church The early Catholic Church, they were images, icons. That was off. Just because we did that doesn't make it right. Our people were going off in Europe, in the Byzantine Empire, Middle Ages, Dark Ages. Our people were going off. That's why we fell out of power. That's why the white man came out of the caves and came and subdued us. Really, it was the Most High. Bubonic plague hit 2/3 of Europe. All right? We started dying. You saw the so-called white man start coming out the caves. You start killing us. And then we got subdued, got put into slavery. All right? Let's give you some history. Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 25. The graven images of their gods, when it says a lowercase g right here, shows you that it's not the Most High, shall ye burn with fire. So when you see these graven images of their gods, false gods, you burn with fire. Some false gods are actually black. All right? The gods of the other nations and so forth and so on. Hamites and so forth and so on. Some of their gods are black. All right? Not all their gods is white. The original false gods were black. The white man that wasn't even on the scene yet when these nations were around. All right? Just because it's black does not mean it's righteous. So you burn it with fire. Thou shalt not desire the silver or gold that is in them. So let's say the image is made out of false gods of silver or gold. We're to burn it, and we're not even supposed to keep that image. That gold, that silver is corrupted because it was an idol. All right? It's corrupted, it's defiled, unclean. It says, them nor take it unto thee. So don't take that idol and put it in your house. Least I'll be snared therein. How will you be snared therein? One day it might pop in your mind, let me just bow down to that idol. Or in your mind, you're thinking every time you speak of, the Most High, you think of that idol. You're supposed to burn it. Lose your money. Who cares how much money it costs? Lose it. You're supposed to give up riches for the kingdom. Give up riches for the Most High, for this word. All right? Even if it's super expensive, big, giant, idol of gold that could be thousands of dollars. Give it up. Burn it. Don't desire it. All right? Lose that money for the truth's sake. All right? The scripture said, what profit is the one who has the world and lose their soul? You have the world, but you lose your soul. Here it is, you rich off of these idols. And then you lose your soul. Lose your soul to who? Lose your whole soul to Satan, and you lose your soul in hellfire. All right? That's what's going to happen to you for desiring that silver, that gold that is corrupt. All right? For it is an abomination unto the Lord thy God. That means those images, those gold, those silver images, is an abomination, meaning unclean. Neither shall I bring an abomination into thy house. So don't bring any idols into your house. Here it is, you got brothers with this picture of Caesar Borgia in their camps and in the house. Pictures of even the black so-called Christ, which is not Christ. Because you didn't see him and you don't know exactly what he looks like. You know he's dark-skinned, but you don't know what his nose, his eyes, his cheekbones, you don't know that. You don't know exactly what he looks like. So why draw an image? If somebody draws an image of someone they never seen, that's not them. All right? So I'm making this a black thing. This is about the commandment to the Most High. All right? So don't bring it even in your house. At least I'll be a cursed thing like it. So what is that? A cursed thing. A graven image of their gods. All right? Black or white. Chinese or whatever. Do not bring it into your house. Don't go say, see, this is your gods. You don't have to do that. Just show the scriptures. Keep it in the scriptures. You need all these images to prove a point. Our people know who Caesar Borgia is. They know who these false gods are. You don't have to say all their names. All right? No graven images of false gods, idols. All right? But thou shalt utterly detest it. That means you're supposed to hate it. And thou utterly abhor it, for it is a cursed thing. So yeah, we're not supposed to have those images in our house. Now let me clarify something. The scriptures don't say you can't have images. It says you can't have false images of false gods. The scriptures talk about the menorah, the candlestick, which has 7 branches. That's not an idol. That's not a false god. That's something that we had during the time of Moses. And when the temple was destroyed in 70 AD, we carried out a menorah. So a menorah is not a graven image of a false god. Having a menorah on your shirt is not breaking the Most High's commandments. So not everything the scripture's not saying not to have any images whatsoever. That would be going off. All right, shalom.